And let me tell you what we have in store for you right now. I will give the floor to three very intriguing individuals, of whom two you may already know, and they will tell us a little bit about where we stand with accessibility in Poland, starting with Anna Żórawska of the Culture Without Barriers Foundation. Justyna Mańkowska of the Katarynka Foundation. And Jakub Walczyk of the Forum Without Barriers, the programming team. Thank you. First off, we will probably keep to hand-holding our mics because we're not going to perform in concert, though we will be discussing important matters and formats. Let me move here so that we can see our prompts on the screen. And let me tell you a little bit more about what has transpired since the first Forum Without Barriers and how different entities that collaborated on greater audiovisual accessibility started to project change systemically. And this change did not start with the ZAMEK Culture Center, because Justyna and Ania will tell you a little bit about how the third sector has implemented that change. But yes, indeed, that first Forum Without Barriers 2 years ago was a breaking point, a watershed for us as a lobby in favor of systemic changes for greater accessibility in cinematography. And so from a dispersed group of individuals, we unionized, we engaged towards greater networking and grassroots activities, lobbying in favor of systemic changes in the sector. This is an upward mobility, an upward movement from the grassroots, but it's all about positive change that we have exerted so far. Thank you, and thanks to Kasia Stankiewicz and Vala. We were challenged from the get-go, from the start of this forum, and though we barely stand on our last legs, we will do our best for you to show you what has transpired over the course of those 3 years, and we will twist this time-space a little bit in order to compress as much as possible into this tiny presentation. This is the map of accessibility, or activities for accessibility in cinematography. This map is by no means complete, and we'd like to call upon you to keep us up to speed with the latest initiatives and to add them to this map, so that nobody feels left off and left out from these activities, from this map. As I said, we started as a dispersed group, but now we have coagulated into a stronger and more unionized entity. It's been 20 years since 2006, and Fundacja Audiodeskrypcja's first movie screening with audio description. And these 20 years show us the great pace and the great acceleration behind the change for accessibility in cinema in Poland. And let me just read out our partners: Fundacja Audiodeskrypcja of Białystok, and the Culture Without Barriers Foundation in Warsaw, Katarynka Foundation in Wrocław, Centrum Kultury Wrocław Zachód also in Wrocław. Let me continue with some more associations, such as the De facto Association of Płock, the Mili Ludzie Social Initiative Foundation in Poznań, Kino w Słupsku Foundation, Culture Without Barriers, Electronic Cinema, as well as Culture Center ZAMEK back in 2018. You've been with us for the past 8 years, and Kino Echo Jarocin, Fundacja Automatophone of Warsaw, Kino Zacisza of Piekary Śląskie, Foundation Kinematograph of Rabka Zdrój, Ośrodek Kultury Norwida of Krakow, and the Gdańsk Archipelago of Culture, as well as the Institute of Municipal Culture in Gdańsk. Also with us have been the Adapter project, as well as Audio Movie project, and last but not least, Kino Dostępne Accessible Cinema project. And again, mind you that this map is by no means complete. This is something that we came up with off the top of our head, but if you feel like your name, the name of your institution or foundation should be added to the map and should also be present, make sure to approach us and we will do our best in order to add it ASAP. And if I may call upon you to do something, I'd say appreciate what you do, appreciate yourselves. We know that working for accessibility is a grind, it's a continuous one. And again, these activities date way back when some of the original websites went offline or are inactive, and we don't know about each and every one of you and your efforts, and we have to keep you in the loop in order to work effectively with the ministry in mapping this activity. This map in turn shows you three types of entities, NGOs that propelled this change in 2006, and the network initiatives online and applications in 2014, as well as public cultural institutions since 2017. And it's not that these three have not been interoperable, it's just that we haven't done that to the fullest extent. We have all collaborated on single initiatives, on single projects, which was nonetheless important, of course, but the character of this collaboration has changed and tightened. Let us also notice the fact that a lot has changed over time and a lot of best practices have been coined. We've started with different kinds of carriers from those used these days. We started with live audio description, and we did our best in order to provide sound installation, makeshift solutions in this respect. We also would sit our simultaneous sign interpreters right beneath the screen in a very inconvenient position, and we would also cater to audiences as tiny as 2 persons at once. We would also get copies that failed to be up to scratch in terms of subtitles or audio description, and we'd have to tweak those copies in order to project them effectively. A lot of problems that we had to encounter, and one of the festivals we even nicknamed Tribulations because of all the trouble that we faced in the process. Certainly, you also should remember one of the Icelandic movies being screened during one of the festivals where we failed to receive audio description and had to improvise in order to deliver, which we did. And I'd like to take this opportunity to thank all individuals and stakeholders who have contributed to greater accessibility of cinematography in Poland. From the bottom of my heart, great thanks to all of you. Thanks for your consistency and endurance and commitment. Now, what we've managed so far. Well, first and foremost, we put ourselves on the map individually and mutually. We recognize the fact that there are many like-minded individuals and groups dispersed around the country, and that we could come together and lobby for change, not only as NGOs, but also with public institutions of culture, such as the ZAMEK Culture Center, which gave us the backing and the stature that we needed in order to receive a platform and to become visible. And back in 2020, 2021, we were also drafting a very important document for the Ministry of Culture and National Heritage on all things accessible in cinematography. We put some of the first important strands into the narrative and signaled the need for change to the ministry. And as NGOs, we believed firmly that somebody would do what was called for in order to effect that change, even though it took some time. One tangible effect was to start the initiative Film for Everyone, as well as to start a group for accessible cinematography with the Council for Greater Accessibility at the Ministry of Funds, of the Regional Funds and Policy. Also important was the fact that the Film for Everyone initiative has brought together all sorts of stakeholders across the cinematographic sector, starting with film institutions, through NGOs, activists, distributors, as well as the cinematographers and cinema operators. All of this and more helps us to be well attuned to one another and to cater to all sorts of perspective, and to make sure that every voice has been taken into consideration. One more voice that is not with us yet and we're working on is something that will be part of our conversation later on. I should also mention the names of those that for the past 2 years and counting have consistently worked for greater accessibility in cinematography and as part of the group that I am a member of. And I must admit that while it's difficult to work with institutions that may not work as effectively as NGOs without barriers and quickly, this teaches us patience, the virtue of patience, as well as gives us an opportunity to work with institutions such as the Polish Union of Hard of Hearing and Hard of Seeing, as well as the Foundation for Regional Development, Accessible Cinema Foundation, as well as a number of entities and stakeholders listed in the last slide of our presentation. And I'd like to thank them sincerely because the Council for Accessibility in Cinema features 50 different experts from different bodies.
And we are going to talk now, to tell you now about what has been able to achieve in the network. Right, we met here during the first forum, Without Barriers. We worked on and off, and all of a sudden we had some tangible proof of our activity. And this is, well, obviously we need patience, but we do believe that in 2 years from now, we will see the first harbingers of hope, and we will have distribution copies in the regular movie theaters with Polish voiceover, with subtitles for the deaf and hard of hearing, and the translation into the Polish Sign Language, as well as with audio description. Now, we do believe that those who are lawyers here will tell you, okay, we already had this provision in the relevant law. No, actually, it was only a provision in certain documents of the Polish Chamber for movie theaters, but it was not part of legislation. We had on and off, we had different solutions tested, either or audio description and Polish voiceover, then subtitles for the deaf and hard of hearing, and the Polish Sign Language interpretation. We are now a watchdog, if you will, an overseer who tries to look for certain lacunae in the legislation, in the relevant documents. So, well, in 2 years, we actually are going to have all movies released with all the four elements that you see in front of you on the screen. So this is something we're going to. Well, this is going to be a game changer, if you will. And what's important for those related to cinemas, we will have eligible costs returning, under which we will be able to by induction loops or some audio description machinery, if you will. Marlena was instrumental for introducing this watershed change, and she did raise this during a workshop earlier today. Further on, what we have managed to achieve, we have developed the guidelines for the development of accessibility of movies in the Polish movie theaters in a group, not only within the initiative, but we also invited a lot of you here. I see so many of you who joined us, who pitched in the project. We came up with guidelines, which will soon be discussed at the Council of Accessibility, and we will. This will be followed by a number of other steps, like lobbying for the topics of accessibility in curricula of film schools and higher education institutions. The students need to know what audio description is, what SDH is, and that this is not something extra, something which is non-mandatory. Another change we do need, and we still haven't seen it in place, but we do have an ally. We do have a big ally in the FINA institution. We met a director, and we already see a lot that has changed, that has been achieved. We want to share what we have managed to affect all of us here. Director Tomasz Kolankiewicz of the Audiovisual Institute says that we can say that within 3-year period, we will have a repository of movies with AD, SDH, and Polish Sign Language involved. Obviously, we need to spread the good news about accessibility tools. We need to raise awareness of such tools. NGOs are unable to cope with this mammoth task. Another change we have managed to do is something we haven't been able to see, but a lot wouldn't have happened if we didn't have an ally in the Polish Institute of the Film Art. We once went with all the with a lot of NGOs. We heard that art houses are going to be extinct within a decade or so. This hasn't transpired today in the Polish Institute of the Film Art. We have powerful allies who have been instrumental for the first debate ever at the Gdynia Festival of Polish Feature Films. We discussed the topic of accessibility and the possible avenues we should take. Staying within the Polish Institute of the Film Art, we also have a team, an accessibility team that has been set up. It has been set up, and that's important. We still do not know what the scope of activities will be, but we do hope that they're going to be a hub for the introduction of the best practices in the film industry. Let me tell you a little bit about the practice of accessibility related to films. When we have accessibility discussed in different contexts and different fora, we are asked for opinions about accessibility, and this is actually the first time we've been empowered, and we can share our knowledge, we can take responsibility for what we do. Another sea change here is what we want to achieve in the first place. Our PEP dream is, and let's spell it out, kids, whole families should be able to watch the most popular films using contemporary culture codes. We should be able, kids with disabilities should be able to watch these movies that we all know by heart, and they were not able so far to watch them. As a group, we collect data to support the process. And now let us move on to the dreams. We have a dream, and let's get down to the basics. We need to be closer. We need to be closer to movie theaters. They also need our support, and it's important that we have fully accessible screenings in all cinemas. Culture houses, culture centers are very important. This means a long life of an accessible film, VOD, streaming platforms, and television. However, what we need to put our dreams into life, we need legislative change. We need to precisely define accessibility in a relevant law on culture, in a law on cinematography, and law on the radio and television broadcasting. We do realize that we are pioneers. We are the trailblazers. And again, our PEP dream is to extend the limits of accessibility, and we need to think more prudently about accessibility. We need to realize that 70% of viewers watch movies on their own, and this is the situation we need to factor in our activity. We have to have a lot of different elements on our radar, and we need to address them. Diverse individuals need to be factored in. The debate on accessibility is still in its embryo stage, but we need to be thinking about a sensory-friendly cinema. We also need to know that the role and function of movies, of cinemas, is to be extended. It's not only the screening of a movie production. It's a place for building relations, and this role is of paramount importance. And here, cinemas cannot be left to their own devices. We need to be proactive on the part of NGOs. The cinema itself, the movie theater itself, might not be able to effect change on their own. We need to somehow highlight what is to be done for the sake of persons with disabilities. Sometimes it's very small things that need to be rectified. We need to what we do want to stress is that you need to join us to stimulate us. Education is of major importance. Education of the mass viewer, of the mass spectator. They skip screenings which are fully accessible because they falsely believe that audio description or I don't know SDH might distract them, and this is something that needs to be taken care of. I see that we are 3 minutes behind time. Let us treat this as a punchline of our intervention here. We do believe that in 10 years from now, the reality is going to be totally different, and that's why we need to be proactive. We need to foresee changes that will happen. Anyways, now we would like to read out the names of all the people who are with us. And here you see, and here the names.
Joanna Piotrowiak, Katarzyna Orosiak-Marisson, Paulina Jarosewicz.
Małgorzata Niestrawska, Karol Piekarczyk, Radosław Fienko, Dominika Wierzbowska. Z całego serca dziękujemy.
I ja dodam, słuchajcie, że w naszej inicjatywie...
Okay, we also have movie festivals in our initiative. Together, we can do a lot. We need all of you seated in this room, also those who are the first timers. Thank you.